So this is our first podcast, and what is it? We were supposed to start at 8. It's 10:57. So a couple of hiccups, but we got it done. My name is John Anderson. I am the proprietor of Sports Card Pop Culture Archives. We're in Columbia Heights, Minnesota, and with me we got Clint Wolcyn.
Wolcyn.
Wolcyn, I've been saying your
It's
name
Wolcyn.
wrong
That's
for
okay.
5 years.
Yeah, thanks.
Go
man.
ahead and introduce yourself if I don't know how to
appreciate
say your name.
Yeah, no, Clint Wolcyn, Mike Hansen and I are the owners of Absolute Sports Cards, friends of John. We've worked together for, 4 or 5 years now. And
Something like that.
yeah, it's fun to be here. I'm excited to just talk about what we always talk about but never record it. So.
There you go. So that's a good lead into sort of the baseline of what we want to do here is, so I'll just tell a story we were just talking about. So
Amen.
I'll tell my story a little bit,
Yeah.
just a little bit of how we got here, because I have been listening to Gary Vaynerchuk, and when I listen to him while I'm listing on eBay, and I swear he's talking to me, not talking to anybody else. He's just talking to me, and so he's like, "Oh, I got your YouTube channel." I'm like, "I don't belong in front of a camera ever," and so I listened to him for about a year. I buy a camera. And then I spent another year looking at that camera every day and like, it's not going to be today. And so finally he says something. I told you that's what he said. Like, you can record a history of yourself and then your children can look at it when they're older. And I was like, okay, I can justify doing it just for that. So even if nobody's ever watched anything, that would be okay because my daughter Kirby will watch it. So that's what got me to do it, although I was justifying it for myself. So I had done like 100 videos that basically nobody was watching except for one guy. One guy loved my videos. Right?
That's awesome.
And so on the way down to the National last year, I kind of helped you on your booth, although that's the whole story last year. But so from Minneapolis to Chicago, we didn't stop talking the entire trip down. And halfway through, I'm like, I should be recording this whole thing and throw it up on YouTube. So that's kind of started the concept of like me and you should do it. And somehow we're here. And the only reason why we're here is because our producer and by the way, director of marketing for the company. I go, we got to give you a title, and I go, we can call you anything we want to. So, Evan McCracken, thank you very much for helping us get started.
Absolutely.
Because Clint and I don't have any idea how to.
As entrepreneurs, we have very little tech experience, savviness, and I'm sure there's other entrepreneurs that can relate with that. That in order for business to work, it's so important the people around you, because I know the limit of my skill set, and it's awesome, and I appreciate someone who knows something and is good at something that's different than me. And I think part of what you're even describing as this starting, one of my hopes for this whole thing that we're doing is to actually inspire someone else who's listening to say, you know what, I've felt like I should write a book, I should start a business, I should do a podcast, and you hearing John's testimony leads you to actually taking the step, even if it's getting the camera and looking at it for a year, and then one day actually starting it.
And not only that, also growing up in a way where I don't have enough confidence that I even should do it or even make the attempt, and then somehow we're still doing it. That's
and then you're
cool.
doing it. And I think people are going to relate with that, and we hope that that gives someone the motivation, the encouragement to take that step. And you know what? Even if we've failed plenty along the way in our business ventures, and that's okay. Like many of you have probably read the book, Failing Forward. That's a concept in business, in life, that I think is super important. And I think fear, to your point, robs so many people of an opportunity. And you know what? As we've entered into it, it's exhilarating. It's exciting. I think that's the risk of like, I don't know how, we don't even know how this podcast is going to go. That's half the fun of it, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, you come alive doing it.
And so one of the things we want to do is, so when Clint and I get together, we're constantly yammering. Like there's never a moment of silence. But I want the podcast to be like a conversation where we don't have a plan in the conversation. So this is the way I phrase it. I've been hyping like, oh, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be so fun. And I'll be like, we'll talk about sports cards, then we'll talk about business, then we'll talk about religion, and then we'll talk about sports cards, and and then we'll talk about morality, and then we'll talk about
politics,
sports cards,
and investing.
I always go back to sports cards.
Sports
Like,
cards,
then we'll talk about poker, and then we'll talk about sports cards. And so that's what I wanted to be. Like, well, I always go back to sports cards because, like,
that's our baseline. That's our businesses. That's our. I mean, I think sports are our passion. There's so much around that topic, and you know what's really cool about the starting of this podcast, even though it's not even intentional. Right now, sports cards in the just in the national media, it's exploding. Like, more people are coming into our stores wanting for the first time to get back into sports cards, and it's like, I was there like 7 years ago, and you never left the hobby, and so we have that difference of, like, you have seen guys like me come in and out, and now I'm seeing other people that were where I was 5 years ago.
No, absolutely.
And so it's exciting. I mean, there's a buzz about cards, whether it's YouTube breakers, that whole thing that,
Yeah, and, like, one of the things I always say is, like, it's a completely true statement, but it's not completely true.
I love those.
It's completely true, but it's not completely true. So what I said is, I started collecting in 1987. My mom would bring me to the store, and she'd buy me a rack pack of 1987 Topps baseball. Not Fleer, not Donruss, Topps, right? And I didn't even know they were worth anything, and so I would just put them in number order, then I put them in alphabetical order, then I put them by team, and then I do it all over again. And so that's how I got started. And then, like, in '88, I was at Food and Fuel in Coon Rapids, and I saw Beckett.
Oh, wow.
And I just saw a baseball card on it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Magazine with baseball card. I begged my mom for it, which she never bought me anything that I ever asked for in a store. For some reason, she said yes. Just ask her one day, like, why she said yes.
Just gave in. She just knew. It was destiny.
No, literally, I looked in there, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is worth 5 cents. Like, 5 cents was like, and I got, 300 cards, like $15. Like,
I got money. I got some money.
Most money I've ever seen in my life.
I love it.
And so what I mean by I never left is I had to think about it when I opened the shop, but I think I've never gone more than 3 months without buying a pack of cards and opening it since 1987.
Wow. And
so I might be wrong, but I don't think I am, and I think it's less than that.
No kidding.
Or at least buying a card on eBay or selling a card, doing something in the hobby. It's less than 3 months.
So, interesting story on the beginning of it for me. My first sports card show. So my background was my grandpa played professional baseball for the Minneapolis Millers with Ted Williams in the 30s. Bernard Wolcyn, which actually he has one card that I still don't own. And there's been 3 of them graded, and I still, like...
He has more than one card, though, right?
He has one card in one set. And as far as I know, I've missed the last sale publicly was 7 years ago. And so I'm still looking for that card.
I thought you had got... Oh, okay.
No, he only has one card. It was a 1933 Wirtz cigar set of the Minneapolis Millers. So he played with the Millers, and then he played with the Senators and the Tigers. And
for some reason, I thought you had acquired that.
No, I haven't yet.
You must have shown me the old listing.
Yep. And I actually have the picture that the St. Paul paper used for that card on my wall. Yep. So I had that growing up. I never even knew it was a card. But he took me at age 8, which would have been 93, to my first card show at the Harmar Mall in Roseville. Roseville. And I remember seeing a Paul Molitor rookie card, which my dad played with for the Gophers, and being like, I want that card. And at the time, the sticker on it was like $110. I was like, I'll never afford a card like that. I mean, that card was worth more now. It was worth more then than it is now.
Yeah,
unless it's in high grade. So now I've acquired plenty of those, and I see them all the time, and it still brings me back to that card show where I was like, oh my gosh, that's my dad's friend. And
I think you glossed over that real quick, except in high grade. What's it in 10?
Yeah, so a PSA 10 in that card's like $14,000.
Yeah, right.
So, and actually, I almost bought a.
What you said was completely true, but it wasn't completely true.
So I actually almost bought a 9 this year on auction, and it ended up going for about $900. I wanted to spend about $7. So even a 9 is getting pretty.
That's 78,
valuable.
Right?
Yeah, 78. It's actually got him and Alan Trammell on the same card. So it's got 2 Hall of Famers. It's the rookie shortstop, so it's all 4 of the players. But
that's right, and Trammell's on there too.
Yeah.
That's a big card.
So 93 was my first show.
I think we were at that same show. I would have been 15.
Yeah, Harmar. That was the
me and
monthly
Steve.
show.
Me and my friend Steve would be there.
Yeah, that was the monthly
show.
What
up, Steve?
Steve, what up? And I think my last pack I opened would have been 97. So I got the Kobe years.
Oh, okay.
And then I was out
96,
of it.
97.
Yep, 96, 97. And then I was out of it from 97 until 2014.
By the way,
So,
so this is what I'm talking about. How
Yeah.
there's no plan to it.
Yeah.
I gotta tell the small story about Steve
I want to hear
because you immediately, you know the story, right? The small story about Steve with 96, 97 Top Chrome basketball.
it. Oh,
So you know the story, but
Yeah.
we talked. I said what up, Steve, and then you talked about 97. I was like, okay. So my buddy Steve calls me up. We are seniors in high school, and he goes, John, they got Top Chrome basketball. It's like higher end than Tops, and the only, and I'm like, well, okay, and they're like, there's $3 a pack or whatever they were.
Yeah.
And I go, you can buy like 5 packs of Tops for that. That's crazy because I
Yeah.
was a quantity over quality guy.
For sure.
Yeah, I wanted a lot of cards.
I never opened a finest product.
I'll put it this way. This is where, my background growing up poor is like having a lot of stuff was a thing, So quality wasn't a thing, just having a lot was a big thing.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, whatever, it's never gonna be a thing. Now the one thing that did sell me on it was they were only selling them at Walmart. And he goes, there's not Walmarts in every state.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's a real thing. And so I did end up buying 97 Top Chrome baseball. But what he did, which is genius, is so he has a part-time job. I can't remember where he was working, and he would go to Walmart. He would get the boxes, and because he didn't have all the money, he put it on layaway.
Which is awesome.
That's so like next level. Even at the time, I knew that was
hustler.
genius. I was like, layaway. I never even used layaway.
What a hustler. Well, it's interesting now. There used to be a bigger gap between the Topps Chrome Kobe rookie and the paper rookie.
Mm-hmm.
That gap is actually closed, which is
I don't know that gap.
So the gap right now, like I just had someone today in the shop look up the Kobe rookie and the Beckett, the Topps paper, not the Chrome.
Yeah, that top paper was selling for nothing.
It's $300 to $600 right now.
For a 10.
No.
For a 9.
Ungraded.
What?
10s are almost $5,000. A Chrome 10. A Chrome 10 is probably 10 to 12. So literally
100?
1,000.
You're saying the gap has closed?
The gap has gone from they used to be the Chrome were 3 to 4 times more valuable than the paper. Now they're only about 2 times as valuable.
Oh, interesting.
So literally, and what's happened is
you just said 12,600.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, but in a 10, that's a $5,000 card. The Topps paper.
Okay,
I'm saying raw. So raw.
Oh, okay.
Raw, they're probably.
So
3
in
or 4
10,
times
the
apart.
gap has reduced.
No, even in raw, the whole
Well, what are the raw chromes?
Raw chromes are probably 1,500.
Okay, so 6 to 15. Okay, yeah.
So it's gone to
4 times 2.
It used to be that paper was a $10 card and the chromes were 200.
Yeah.
Forever. That was.
Oh, that's right.
And you never even saw the chromes. I remember selling a Chrome PSA 9 for $500, and the PSA 10 papers were $50 at the time.
Yeah.
So we're talking 10 times.
I'll tell you another quick story. Senior year. So Steve was like the dealer, right? So my buddy Steve, and so he called me up one day. Again, this is senior year because senior year was Kobe's. He goes, there's a dealer who has 1,000 finest Kobe's at $8 a card in 1997.
Wow.
And I'm just like, of course, I'm like, that's more money than I even comprehend.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's got to be a great price because I think they were selling for 18 or 20 at the time.
Now, is this the finest with the peel or without the peel? Do you remember?
Well, I wouldn't have known the specific, but they would have had.
Because you know how they have the coating.
Yeah,
the ones with the coating.
No, they wouldn't have peeled them. No.
They would have
left them. This would have been
Yep,
way
yep,
earlier
yep.
in the game. Yeah.
No one was peeling them yet.
Yeah.
It's an interesting fact because I didn't collect anything Chrome. I opened Topps and Collector's Choice.
I opened Finest. Finest was a product I liked.
I never opened an EX pack. Never opened
I love the EX. Yeah.
They were just way too much. It was $7 a pack, like you said, or 50
Okay,
cents.
why is this all of a sudden becoming the Steve podcast?
Yeah,
but
Steve,
I got one more you just brought up, right?
Wow.
So we go to Midwest, which was a wholesaler in Minnesota. So back in the 90s, it wasn't just like the big monster distributors. There was all these little mom and pop wholesalers. And he had a tax ID, and we were going to do a card show at Mountain View. And I bought a box of 97 EX 2000 baseball to sell pack out at the show. The first time I ever did that.
Nice.
I was all excited. So we get back to his house and we're preparing for the show. And he goes, "Can I buy a pack?" I go, "Yeah, you can buy a pack." At $4, he pulls the Nomar Garcia Power Essential Credentials. And we go to, oh no, not Mountain View. We're going to St. Cloud. And we went to St. Cloud. He sells it for $100. I'm like, so now every time I get a box at a card show, and this is before the shop.
Yeah.
He'll go, "Can I buy a pack?" And I tell him to do things to himself.
He can fly a kite.
He cannot buy a single pack for me.
No, and actually, it's interesting how one of the things I'm sure a lot of you guys who are listening, or if you're into cards, which I assume most of you are,
Hopefully.
one of the things that's exploded in the last 5 years has been like the 90s insert cards.
Yeah.
So like I grew up, I never opened a pack growing up where I pulled an autograph or a relic card out of a pack. Never happened to me. So when I came back into the hobby,
Right.
like every box was guaranteed like 2 autographs. I was just blown away. I was
Yeah.
like, those were like 1 in 10 cases
That would
in
have
the
been like
90s.
a shell
you know?
shock.
Yeah.
too.
And so, but I think one of the things people are realizing is like the autograph of the mid 90s was like the serial numbered inserts, like the essential credentials, like because you had to open.
Well,
like,
essential credentials was numbered, yeah.
It was numbered. Yeah. No, and that was like a whole new thing. Like we just got one of these in. Thanks to John. John told us about he gave us a lead on a 93 finest basketball box.
Oh yeah, right.
Unopened that we just bought recently. And I was having a
Did something
conversation.
happen?
Well, no, I was having a conversation today with a customer, and they were asking about the box. And I said, one of the iconic things about that box, I said, if you buy that, I would honestly, in my opinion, say don't open it. Because
open
I think that box, 93 finest, baseball more so initially than basketball, because I think the baseball finest was like a bigger deal in the 90s.
It was.
Is that what?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I think the
Well,
values are still really high.
Yeah.
But like that box, that product marked the beginning of the modern card era and the end of like the junk,
premium.
the ultra premium
It's
cards.
the end of the junk era.
It's the end of the junk wax. It's the end of the overproduction and the beginning of like the scarcity of like a serial number
You're
card.
kind of burying the lead on that box, the jumbo box.
And I talked to someone else.
even a hobby.
So a customer came into the shop the other day who used to own Sports Card Emporium in South
Oh,
Minneapolis. And he sold those boxes.
Yeah.
And he said he saw some opened. And actually he told me a story. He said one time he had a customer come in and they opened a couple packs, and in both packs they got refractors.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up pulling the box off the shelf and opening the rest of the box. Every pack in that box had a refractor. And it was known that there was hot boxes, I think 1 or 2 per case, where every pack in the jumbo had a refractor. They had a hot box, and every case had every pack had a refractor. So the value of that box is actually higher because the potential that you get 24 refractors instead of 5, which then
that's math.
And when you're talking a 132 card set and you're getting 25 refractors, you're gonna hit 10
Jordan's
big.
every 5 hot boxes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you're gonna hit a Anthony Hardaway rookie and a Weber rookie, and all those other guys. Yeah. So I mean, you have like that whole idea was new. I mean, other than collector's choice.
Okay, so here's the deal. I got another Steve story.
Oh my goodness. We're just gonna call this episode 1 Steve.
I had no money. I'd have $20. I'd buy 3 packs. I didn't do any baller stuff. His uncle got in the cards, and him and another dealer go down. I believe it was Iowa, and must have been 96, 97 hockey finest. They go into a Walmart or probably a Walmart.
Yeah.
And they buy 2, 3 packs, whatever. They go to the car. Every pack had a gold refractor in it.
Mm-hmm.
They went back. There was 1 pack missing from the box. They go back to the gold refractor in every pack. And his uncle still complains that he didn't get a Wayne Gretzky.
Dude, gold refractors from the 90s are like. So my personal collection is Paul Molitor. Like I don't even own a single gold refractor.
Gold
Paul Molitor.
refractors were just because that year was that the bronze refractors, silver refractors, that the gold refractors. The gold refractors were I don't even know.
And like in that finest set, the gold refractors have like that embossed. It's like a decal edge cut to it. Very unique looking card. Like it actually doesn't grade very well. Which, by the way, to spin off this topic, one of the things I wanted to talk about like is the revelation. I know you and I have conversed about this, but we've never recorded it. Is like. What I'm witnessing in sports cards, and I've had a lot of conversations with people, and the more I've done it, the more I've realized, like, one of the things that's so cool about cards that's different than, let's say, art or coins is that the accessibility for the common person, like, or the investor at the highest level. Like, so, like, let's take, for example, like, today I sent out to grade for a customer a 1954 Topps Hank Aaron rookie. So, my dad this winter wanted to invest in some cards, and so he asked me some advice like, hey, I'm gonna put together a portfolio of some cards, and we went to a show and there was a Hank Aaron rookie at like I think it was a PSA 2.5, which it had a little crease. It looked okay. It wasn't like mid grade, but it was
showed nicer.
It showed nicer than it was. I mean, the creasing brought the technical grade down. I think he bought it for between $900 and $1,200. So you're getting a 1954 rookie card of one of the greatest hitters of all time, graded, for under $2,000. Now, if you want to buy a PSA 9 Hank Aaron rookie, you can buy one for, if they only come up for auction probably every 10 years. I think the last one sold about $400,000 or $500,000. So literally, you have someone who can buy. They're the same card.
Yeah.
They're both authentic. They're both graded, and yet you can spend $2,000 or you can spend $500,000. You can't do that with anything like coins. You can't do that with art. Like you can't buy a
coin.
You can't buy a, but you can't buy a Picasso, a genuine Picasso at $1,000. Or at a higher grade one for
because he only painted one original.
Because he only has one original, right? So here you're getting an original card, and also like for let's say Michael Jordan, you have the same thing, but even a lower value. You could buy a Jordan rookie in low grade a few years ago for like under $1,000.
Yeah.
Or you could buy a PSA 10 this spring. They were selling during the Last Dance for $100,000. So cards, and then the other thing that hit me, and this is a topic we can explore more. I would love to know your thoughts on it. Is like, I think sports cards are to athletes what stocks are to businesses.
Yeah, I remember us having this conversation, and the genius point I brought up.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
You're going to remember this because this is something we talked about previously. Was the genius point I came up with was when your homie comes over to the house and you're playing poker, you're at a game. He's like, "Oh, hey, I got to show you something." Bam, municipal bond. I get 2.3% a year, tax free. Like, your buddy's gonna think you're nuts, right? They're like, "Oh, that's great."
You're not picking up any cool points,
right? But you come on and go, PSA 6 Jordan. Check out that Jordan rookie. That's why people buy art.
Yes.
And put on their wall. They're stunting. They're showing off. They're like, look at that.
And
you can't do that with a muni. Can't.
And it's more financially. It's more financially sensible than like literally just having cash.
Yeah. Oh no, cash is worth it.
So and right now we're seeing such a crazy increase in prices in sports cards that they're outperforming so many other asset classes that like. And this is a thing that like some of you even hearing this, if you're not into cards, you might even be like, these guys are crazy. But like sports cards have literally become, we're for sure crazy. Sports cards have literally become a legitimate alternative investment class of its own. Like
absolutely.
And what I've realized is as I've listened to some guys like Brent at PWCC, Jeff Wilson on Sports Card Investor, these guys who are talking about the investment side of cards, like the sports card hobby, and you and I were just talking about this, like it's like 50, 60 years old only.
Yeah.
Whereas like the art market is like hundreds of years, like
it's
100.
Not even that old. It's not even that old.
So it's so young and immature that like we haven't even seen, like a lot of people think like the boom was like the 80s and like that they were learning like how not to do it. But there wasn't even like an investment thing that back then the way there is now with like grading and scarcity.
Something about 1990. 1990 is only 10 years removed from 1980, in which we went to 3 manufacturers.
Right.
So before then, it was just this one company just making
owning the market. Yeah,
I shouldn't say that. It's Philadelphia,
but there wasn't a motivation to like innovate.
Right.
There was like until Upper Deck, right?
Upper
Deck.
No, you said 50, 60 years. We talked about this right before we started recording. Was it's not that old.
Yeah.
Because the National's been around 41 years. This would have been the 41st National. Literally, I'm 41, so literally as old as I am. Now, I remember being a kid and listening to some of the other dealers talk and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly when, but it wasn't 20 years prior to 1978. So, so I think 79 was the first National.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
So it wasn't 20 years prior. It might have been 10 years prior. 10 years prior is 1970, maybe 1973.
Right.
And this is the stories I would hear. You would go to garage sales and somebody would have a box of cars that they just had in their attic since they were a kid. They wanted to sell them.
Yep.
They'd be like, "I'll give you $40 for it," and they're like, "Okay, take them." And there's Mantle rookies and Hank Aaron rookies and
vintage,
stuff like stuff that's unbelievable.
Yep.
High grade, low grade, whatever. But you could just scoop it up.
Yep.
Without even really trying. And so what happened was you have all these 40-year-olds, 45-year-olds who are like, "Oh, I like cards. It's a cheap hobby because I'll go to garage sales, buy them for $10, $5.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get them for free.
Yep.
You know, can you imagine getting like?
I had that actually happen. I have a story about that person.
So what happens is they all start doing it independent, and then all of a sudden, I suspect.
Right.
somebody says, "Oh, look at these! I
Yeah.
picked this up. Remember Mickey Mantle?" And then invariably what's going to happen because it's pre-internet and pre-everything. He goes, "Oh, I do that too."
Right.
And all of a sudden you're getting these local shows or these local meetups.
Yep.
And then turns into the show. And then now we got the and so I don't think it's 50 years old.
Well, and to your point, I think one of the things that's really helped cards mature recently is you have like a perfect storm of, like you're saying, you have the maturing of the hobby. In other words, there's been more innovation in cards. Then you have social media and the ability for people to trade. So I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, and somebody can fact check me on this, but I remember reading within the last 5 years an article that talked about how the beginning of eBay was actually created for the sale of sports cards specifically.
For collectibles.
But sports cards were like
being
like I want to say literally like the driving force.
It might have been.
And I think one of the reasons was, to your point,
could have been stamps and coins as well.
Let's say you lived in a non-metro area, it allowed you to trade and buy and sell cards without having to drive 4 hours to a show,
right?
And go to a shop. You didn't have one in your town, and so the internet, the early beginning of the internet, and eBay and all of that. And then on top of it, now you have the grading dynamic, which allows people to like really establish a market on a card based on condition. And actually grading, which you should share your story about SGC, because John graded cards long before I was aware of it. Like,
wow.
PSA, I believe PSA and those companies were literally created out of the need from eBay of the disputes between buyers and sellers on condition.
I don't know that story. That would be kind of a cool thing to find out. And if we talk to people at PSA and be like, I would love to know that's how that.
Because think about it, like
that was the birth of it.
Businesses like I watch Shark Tank. I'm a big fan of like entrepreneurship, and they always say, like the better mousetrap idea is like the best businesses are businesses that meet a real need that someone has, and they realize like I can fix that need. Like I've experienced, and you have too. Like we could talk a whole podcast about this, is disputes between sellers and buyers when you're selling on the internet, and especially with cards, because there's such a subjective, like I think this is a better grade than that, and if you're not selling it in person, how do you resolve it other than
what
grade?
I want to find out though is, so grade, price differences between grades have always been a thing in cards.
Yes, right. Condition has always been a thing. Yes,
corners and centering.
For sure, yeah.
Right, not necessarily edges and surface so much, but corners and centering, and then secondary.
Yep.
But what I'd want to find out, based on what you said, is, was PSA created because they wanted to just be an authority on the grade period, or was eBay the driving factor? I don't know if that second one's true. That'd be
well, and it's
interesting.
Right along that topic, and this is a little bit off topic, but not really, is like PayPal is to eBay what PSA is to sports. I mean, they facilitate each other's business, right?
I'm not that good at math.
Like I know that's a lot of equations, but like think about it, like one company needs the other, and the other needs each other.
Well, okay, so
they can't exist without each other.
So since we're talking about eBay, because I never left.
I want to hear the story.
Right, because I never left. I'm not sure if I really talked about. I'm sure I told you this. I find it interesting. Because I never left the hobby, I was a freshman so I'm hard of hearing. So we were talking about this. People were like, "Oh, where's that guy from?" So I'm hard of hearing, and I always call it Minnesota speech therapy. So
nice.
Nobody knows where to place me. But so I went to Gallaudet University, with School for the Deaf in Washington D.C. I didn't know how to sign, so I figured if I go there, everybody signs, so I'd learn how to sign. And my mother's deaf, so I was worried I was going to lose all my hearing when I became an adult, which fortunately didn't happen.
That's awesome.
But I wanted to
be prepared.
Be prepared and be able to use an interpreter. So anyways, I'm talking to a kid freshman year. The first semester freshman year, it would have been like September 1997.
Okay.
October 1997. And he goes, I said something about cards. I brought all my cards to college.
Nice.
Because I'm cool.
Yeah. That's what cool kids do.
That's what the cool kids did. I remember looking at some of my cards in my dorm room and having girls walk in and just be like, okay. And walk right out. And I'm like, yeah, you're lost.
You're lost. These cards would buy you a house.
I'm talking to this kid, and this kid goes, oh, my dad owns an auction house in Boston for collectibles and cards.
Oh, wow.
And I go, what? And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And he's telling me about this. He's like, yeah, he's just been selling on eBay lately. And I go, what's eBay? he goes, it's this auction thing, a website where you can sell cards. I'm like, you can sell cards? No, I said this in a sign language version of, you can sell cards?
Like, excited beyond belief at the opportunity.
And I'm like, what do you, he's like, yeah, it's called eBay. I run to the computer lab.
Wow.
And I click on eBay, and holy
Hannah.
What is up, right? So I want to just interject real quick.
Yeah.
I have promised Clint that I'll keep it PG-13.
Nice.
So I'm doing my best.
Family-friendly podcast.
I don't want.
We want to inspire the younger generation.
I don't want to be myself too much, basically. Yeah. So I go there. I'm like, oh man. So I started my first eBay account in 1997. I was only, I believe, it started in '95.
Yep, that's
So
about.
I was within the first 2 years.
Yep.
And so in the early days, this is why I thought of it with PayPal is. You would.
How did you? Yeah, get paid.
You'd sell a card.
Yeah.
You don't know that?
I think you got mailed a check, right?
No, this is how it worked.
Yeah.
You would sell a card. So I was selling low end stuff, right? Because I don't have a lot of baller cards. I'd sell a card for like $1, and then they would mail you a check or a post office money order for $1 in an envelope with a self-addressed stamped envelope in there. That way, I didn't have to pay the shipping. And then you'd cash the check or the money order. You'd wait for it to clear.
And then mail the card.
Then put the card in the self-addressed envelope and send it back. And that's where we learned real quickly that you're not supposed to ship top loaders in envelopes.
Yeah.
Because when they go through the sorters, they shatter.
They
can shatter.
Yeah, because the thing comes in and it turns, right?
So you put them in a semi-rigid and you're okay.
But the cards can still bend.
I shipped 250 cards in college.
To that point, I had a customer once have a card, a literal PSA card, sucked into one of those things, and it literally the case burned.
Or did they put it
burned and melted? It was in like a really small bubble mailer.
Yeah, okay.
And that thing literally pulled it in there, and it like chewed it up, but the card didn't get damaged. We were able to crack it over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, the card didn't get damaged, but the case.
But the case was chewed up. I was like, what happened to this thing?
I've seen that with it shattered.
So I want to hear more about this. So when you opened up eBay, were they like were like Beanie Babies for sale too? Could you buy coins? So it wasn't like.
No, it was everything. I mean,
was there already like the full gamut of
strategies? One of the strategies, especially if you had a commodity where you had more than one, the strategies was do to multiple. So like right now we put quantity in there. The strategies would put as many listings as you could for the same card.
Okay.
And so you would just swallow the screen with your listing of that one item.
Sure.
And then eBay cracked down on that. There's lots of stuff that they cracked down on like that. There was all these different.
Their algorithms got better and they figured out more.
Well, and they were just like, well, this isn't good for the customer. Like, it's the same thing. They're all auctions. Everything with an auction.
What's crazy is like as you told that story, something came to my mind that I literally had the same experience with eBay years later that brought me back into the sports card hobby. Wow. So here's how my eBay and my whole like flipping thing began. This leads into actually how you and I met. So in college, I didn't have any money. I was playing football at Northwestern, working at my parents' tree farm in the summers, trying to make some money to have a little bit to spend during the year. And I walked into a thrift store, Unique Thrift in Columbia Heights, literally right down the road.
A good one.
Columbia on County Road D, right in Roseville.
Yeah.
And I walk in, and on my left-hand side, there's a rack of brand new Kevin Garnett sewn swingman jerseys. And I looked at them, I'm like, I know jerseys. And I went and looked at the price tag, and they were literally like $5 a piece.
Oh, you told me a story.
And the revelation hit me. I'm like, I'm buying them all. Like, I just know they're worth way more than that. I haven't figured out yet how I'm going to sell them or what I'm going to do with them, because I can only wear one or two of them, and I still have the original one. I still have it at home. Awesome. It's a white. It's the white with the, the trees.
Yeah.
Like the best. And they had white and black. And so I went home.
Must have been right after we traded them.
Yeah. And so I don't know how they got them all. They weren't like the highest end, like 150. They would have been like probably 60 to 70 new. So I went on eBay. I found some comps. I opened an eBay account. And the first things I sold, I think I sold them for... I bought them for $5 and I was selling them for $30, and I was like, I'm printing money. This isn't even fair. Is this even okay? Like, I'm making $25 a piece, well, minus fees and whatever. So after that, I was like, wow, why didn't someone else buy all those? Like the thought hit me, and I realized like, we have these experiences all the time where you go like, wait a second, like there's other people that they just didn't want to do the work, or why didn't they? It's like you finding, or did they not know they were worth more? Or like I didn't know if it was my knowledge of like sports or the fact that I grew up getting champion jerseys.
That's a good lead in. So all right, I guess I'll talk about how I got.
Yeah.
So I've
yeah,
always
tell
been a
me.
card collector. I've never was a dealer. I was a horrible dealer. Cause
Collectors are bad dealers.
Well, I told you this
yeah.
before. So like, I would get a card out of a pack.
Yeah.
And I'd look up because I was on eBay, and I go, wow, if it's a good card, I go, oh, it's like $5. He's gonna be much better than that. I gotta hold on to it. And then of course you're wrong a lot. But then when I was right,
Like Glenn Robinson wrong or what? PSA 9.
Mike Glenn Robinson's I selling, so shut up.
Okay.
So anyways,
This guy bought a stack of 100 Glenn
that
Robinsons.
is a story for another podcast.
That is a great story.
Maybe lose my train of thought. So what was I talking about? What was I saying?
You're a bad dealer because you don't.
I'm a bad
you're
dealer.
a collector.
So what happened on the off chance that card would like go to 70?
Yeah.
I go, well, I can't sell it now. It's worth $70. I just never sold it. And then invariably, like, you get hurt, and then it'd be worth $8, and then I'd be like, oh, well, it was worth 70. I can't sell it now. It's worth 70. And I was just an awful dealer.
You're like a stock investor who like you can't sell it when it's running hot because it's a winner, and then when it loses, you're like, well, now I've lost too much. It's
And so what happened was
great.
I had an uncle when I came back to Minnesota in 2006. He said, well, why don't you think about opening a card shop? And I go, I can possibly open a card shop. Like I'm horrible at this. I love everything that I get.
Yeah.
And so when I started the apparel business, going to thrift shops.
And explain what you mean by apparel, because some people listening might not quite understand.
So just vintage sportswear, focusing on 90s. I had been
hats,
reading
jerseys.
Right, but here's the thing. Yeah. I was on Freedom Cardboard was the message board.
Like Cardboard Connect or like Blowout.
Freedom Cardboard. Yeah, that's the name of that.
Yeah.
And there was this long ass thread about people going to thrift shops and finding like all this awesome stuff. And I was just like, I thought again, I mentioned this before. I grew up really poor. Like you don't give up nice stuff. You don't give away nice stuff. So I just kept going like, this must just be like
a one-off,
like their house, where they live. This is
no one does
life.
that here. Yeah.
Who would give away like jerseys and autographs and all that stuff? I read that thing for 2 years.
Yeah. And
so we had a surprise baby, and I was going back for my second degree. I was having a tough time finding a job, and my wife had a job. So I ended up taking care of the baby, and 6 months in, I'm like, one, I'm not cut out to be taking care of a baby anyways, but I was doing a pretty good job.
Like Mr. Mom, is that what it was like?
Yeah, kind of, but
I remember watching that movie when I was little.
Poorly. And then also we didn't have a whole lot of money, and I kept reading this thread, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna give it a shot. I told Annie, my wife, that I'm gonna take $500 and see if I can make any money. We go to the Goodwill.
Which $500 back then, like
I had no $500.
Yeah, that doesn't even exist.
This is 2014.
Dude, like the average American, I read a study, doesn't even have $700 in their account.
No,
so
we really didn't have it, but I had to do something to make some money.
Yeah.
We found Risk. I found a Risk 35th anniversary for $2.50.
Right.
I love Risk, and with the metal figurines in there. And I was like, it's my favorite game. I was like, I'll just keep it if it's not worth a lot of money. I was real pessimistic.
Because I'll still play it.
And I got home. That was my justification. I got home because I didn't even own a cell phone.
Oh wow.
Right? Like we had no money.
Yeah.
And I got home with a $120 game.
So how'd you look it up? Just on your laptop on eBay, or
no? Just computer in the basement. Just internet. Yep. And so I went. Oh, people do give away cool stuff.
Wow.
Then I was off to the races.
That got you hooked.
I was off to the races.
Now, did you even sell it right away? Like
no, I actually held on to it for a while.
How long after you bought it did you sell it?
A few months.
And what'd you get for it? Do you remember?
Yeah, I got like 110.
Did you really?
115, wow. 95, whatever.
And so
it was.
literally,
it was 2015. It was $5 half off. I don't know why I remember that, but I did.
Wow.
That's awesome. It was on an end cap. Like they made a display where they put this baller thing. It's like it was put there for me.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I didn't know what I was gonna sell.
Yeah.
I bought some mugs early on. I hate selling mugs.
But I hate shipping things that can break.
Because I was watching people sell stuff, and I was trying to figure it out. And when I stumbled on the apparel, because in the 90s there were 20 manufacturers with the license for all 4 sports.
Right.
And so there's so much competition. They made so much cool stuff. Yeah, and this was when I was a kid and we couldn't afford anything.
Like what years would you say that started?
90. Well, you were starting to get a few manufacturers, and I only know this because of print ads.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get this stuff. But
right. I didn't either. I never owned a pair of Jordan shoes or anything.
Right, because of print ads, I can kind of track the history of it.
Yeah.
So like late 80s, you started to get a few manufacturers getting into the consumer sports apparel.
Yep.
But by the time 95 is there, there's 9 major manufacturers.
Right.
And so there's so much competition. They make so much cool stuff.
Which is awesome.
And it's just like, there's so much great stuff. And I remember seeing all my friends wearing it. And I had some of it because my mom was really good at clearance sales. So I got some of it. I'm not saying like I had nothing cool.
Yeah.
And
you probably had an eye for cool things, like you saw.
My mom had a good. No, I never bought anything.
No, but I mean, would you go to card shows or school, and you'd appreciate? Like I remember seeing.
No.
Like I had a starter jacket growing up, but I also saw people with them long before I got one. I was like, I want one of those starter jackets. You know, the quarter zip ones with the little star.
So listen to this.
Those were the best.
Listen to this. This is a weird story. So I never asked for anything when I was a kid because the answer is no. So. I asked my mom for a starter jacket.
Nice. What team?
Hold on. Just hold on. This is tragedy and
Heartbreak Hotel.
So I asked my mom for a starter jacket because that's what everybody's wearing.
Right.
And Christmas is coming up. My mom buys me a starter jacket. This is like 1992, maybe 93. She buys me Atlanta Braves, the team that the Twins beat in the 91 World Series. And I'm like, okay, you know what I'm gonna say? Like, this is the worst team you could possibly give me. You know?
Like, am I wearing this to like gloat over them?
I'm like, what am I doing?
Is this like a twisted like celebration of?
But she got me a full zip one, which nobody had. Everybody had the polos, right?
Yeah.
But then she goes, do you remember?
Wait. So it wasn't a button-up satin?
No, it wasn't a quarter.
Yep.
No, it wasn't satin. It was a parka.
And it was the full zip one.
I don't
know if I've ever seen one of those.
They're so rare, dude.
Yeah,
Because they were an extra $30.
Oh wow!
Like I gotta look at an old ad to remember what.
Do you still have it?
No. I gave it away to a thrift shop, and it didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Before you started buying stuff,
yeah,
you
I
gave
gave it away
your starter?
in DC in like 2002. I read the thread, and like nobody gives away cool stuff. And once I started doing this, I was like, oh yeah, I gave away.
Well, but let's be honest. When you gave away that jacket, though, did you think it had resale value? Probably
no,
not.
I didn't.
Right, that's part of it too.
And it didn't fit me, and I kept it for a long time because I never got rid of anything. So here's where the tragedy comes in. And I've never seen one since then.
Wow.
Do you remember a card shop in Anoka on Main Street? You would have been like little. I don't know if it was still there when you were.
Yeah, I grew up in Cambridge. We had 3 stores.
Did you ever go to Anoka?
Yeah, but we had 3 card shops in our hometown.
Okay. This was a card shop, but they also sold like apparel, right?
Okay.
My mom goes, I was gonna get you that jacket. An insulated Minnesota Twins satin snap jacket. My heart was like, I would have totally rather had that. It was a beautiful satin jacket. Would you have
ever given that away?
It was insulated, dude. Like,
yeah,
I can't even find
like a winter starter, but you just never see.
But it was satin.
Yeah.
And I've never. I shouldn't say that. I've had one insulated satin jacket before.
I think I gave you a Vikings one.
Yeah. I think one. It might have been yours, and then maybe there's one other one. But like, they don't exist.
Well, the only teams they made them in were the northern teams. So like Chicago, Green Bay.
So he's like, well, they want a warm jacket. And
for sure. No, that's awesome.
But I love my starter jacket because it was the one thing I had that all the other kids had.
So I want to say, how long after that Risk game was it?
Been on the table with it.
That's cool. How long after our Risk game did I meet you? Do you think? Because it would have been
about
like
a year.
February of 2015.
Yeah, that makes sense because 2014, about a year and some change. And so why don't you go ahead and tell your side of how we met?
Yeah. So the way I met John was, so I started watching, as many of you probably did, like in those like 2012, 13, 14, was like the beginning of a bunch of iconic shows that have really changed like a lot of the way I look at business. It opened up an opportunity. I grew up on a tree farm in Cambridge. I have 3 brothers, learned how to work hard. So like saw my parents run a business, watched them, gained a work ethic, and I think like this all clicked for me when I started watching 2 shows specifically, Storage Wars and American Pickers.
Wow,
and I think American Pickers and Storage Wars, like even though they weren't at all sports related, I was like, you mean I could go to an auction down the road? And so literally I stopped in Eden Prairie and I was like, do you guys do those auctions like on the shows? And the guy goes, yeah, put your email down there. We'll send you out the list. And I was like, are you serious? Like,
oh, wow.
Wow. And so I get an email and I put on my calendar, the public storage in Eden Prairie.
Oh, okay.
And so literally, I go to my first storage unit, and actually,
because you were watching Storage
because I
Wars.
watched Storage Wars, I was like, I want to go buy a
geez.
storage unit and just see what's in there because there might be cool stuff. So I buy my first storage unit, probably January or February of 2015, in Anoka specifically.
Oh,
I didn't find one for sale in Eden Prairie that I could buy it for, and I didn't have that much money. I was like, I need to. Can I get one for like in the show? They're going for like $500,000 or whatever. I'm like, is that real? I buy a storage unit, John, packed. This is like a 10 by 15, packed with stuff, but it's literally thrown everywhere on the floor. I can make out like a safe and like a bunch of junk, and there's like literal garbage like spewed all over the floor. So like I don't know if something got in there or whatever, and all of a sudden people start bidding on it, and I hear people like kind of moaning, and they all start at $5, and I got that storage unit for $15 because no one else wanted to deal with it because like half it I had to throw away.
Garbage.
So at the time I didn't have a trailer or anything. I had a truck. I went to my parents' house and borrowed a truck, and I think I hauled like 6 loads out there. But the thing that I made the most money out of that storage unit was vintage video games that I sold to, I don't know if you remember Discland in Bloomington.
Oh, okay.
I had like an old Zelda. I mean, I made, so I bought the unit for $15, and I think over the next 6 months I made something
64?
like, I made like $2,000 off it.
Like
No,
Nintendo
the original.
64? NES? The cartridge or the smaller cartridge?
The smaller one, the gold one.
Nintendo 64.
The gold Zelda.
Nintendo 64.
And there was some of the original NES stuff, but that was the most valuable.
Oh, no,
So
absolutely.
literally, like, and
That
I
would've
learned,
been the right
and I
time.
learned how to negotiate in that because I remember he was so excited, but he had like his poker face on. Like he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take a look at this stuff." And so I left for like an hour. I come back, he makes me an offer. I'm like, "Dude, this guy really wants this stuff." So I end up like getting an extra $30 out of him in the negotiation because I knew like he was kind of downplaying it. But anyway, so like I end up getting some sports stuff through a couple storage units, and then I went up. I stopped by Tom Franson's shop. And he's like, "Oh, I'm doing a show this, next weekend. Do you want to set up?"
Was that your first show?
That was my first show.
No.
First show ever, dude. First show I've ever set up at.
I didn't know.
And so through these storage units, I would accumulate sports stuff. I had to learn how to sell it all, whether it's antiques or clothes or whatever. And so I kept all my sports stuff, and I was like, well, I'll take them to that show. And I had some cards. I had started buying some card collections, like on Craigslist and on KBid and
I
stuff.
didn't realize that was your first show. That's so crazy.
That was literally my first show, dude. And so
All right,
John walks in.
I'm going to interject. I'm
here.
going to interject now.
Because John walks up and is like looking at some clothes. I had jerseys or something, or
So I'm going to interject here because that's a good spot. I did not know this first show. I just thought you were just a dealer. I'm doing the apparel thing, and I'm just jamming. And so part of my spiel is I'm looking through your low-end cards. So I was out of cards, but I would look through dime boxes and quarter boxes because if I sold like a Tigers jersey, I'd want to put a Tiger card in there with my business card.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about that, and then you said, "Oh yeah, I do storage auctions," and I went, "Oh," because an idea I had was the storage auction guys don't want to deal with the clothes.
No, that was the worst thing. Literally, I mostly donate them.
And so I was like, "Well, we should work together.
Yeah. When
you get clothes, you should get it, and then go ahead."
No. So John's like looking at jerseys, and all of a sudden I'm like, "You're like, yeah, I sell apparel." I'm like, and the light bulb goes off. I go, and I remember saying, "I got a whole storage unit." I was explaining why I wanted the cards. Yeah, and I was like, "I have a whole storage unit full of like jerseys." Because and actually, I think that day you bought a bunch of like 3 for $1 cards, and I had like an AP jersey and something else, and you ended up buying those. But you're like, "Hey, I want to buy the rest of it." So I remember you met me in Edina at the storage unit, and I literally like wheeled down all the clothes. I'm like,
and we went through it,
and you're like, "Yes, no, yes," and I'm like, "You're gonna like list this stuff?"
No.
Because I literally had never sewn a piece of clothing.
So my concept was I was gonna sell it for you on consignment.
Right.
You probably don't remember this.
No, I do. I was like, "Are you gonna give me something for all this stuff?"
Yeah.
I totally remember that. I'm like.
You're like,
I met you once. I'm like giving you like
one time,
all my inventory.
You gave me some stuff, and then it wasn't that much stuff, but it was like a couple $100. I mean, like retail after it all sold.
Like I don't know if I'm never gonna hear from this
guy.
And
then he goes, "You want to give me like $50 or something?" And I go, "I don't have $50." Like I give you. I told you. I said I give you $50 because you definitely got at least $50 here. That's not a problem. But I don't have it. And you're like, okay.
Mike,
and then off I go.
And part of it is we were building trust, and like I was learning how to like and then I remember like you sending out like an Excel spreadsheet. The organization, I was like, okay, this is a legitimate business. Like I wasn't running.
That was when I was preloading it all, which I don't do anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I was literally running my business with like a spreadsheet of like sales and stuff. But like part of it is during that time, which has come full circle for us, is like the thing I learned how to do early on, which has been so helpful now, is like finding different avenues and venues to move things. Absolutely. So like KBid was one. Sales channels. That was it. And you were like a massive sales channel to open up. I'm like, wait, people buy like used jerseys
I
on eBay?
literally don't want to deal with it.
I had no idea. Like,
And I want it.
But you still didn't want to deal with women's clothing,
No.
which I don't blame you. So I just gave all that away.
Yeah.
So
No,
I mean,
that's hilarious.
we wanted to deal with the stuff that we like.
All right, I think I got to tell you a story.
I want to hear
I
this
think
story.
we're
I've
at
been
the
waiting
point.
all day for this story.
So the last couple of days have been. So one of the things is I started to open this store in February, and so open in February, closed in March, open back up, closed again.
Closed.
You know, I never actually closed. I was here every day. You know, stuff happens. So the timing hasn't been the best.
Right.
So one of the things Clint and I did sort of as a joint venture. I mean, it's my venture, but really there's a very active partnership in it because we share in some of the marketing. Is we started doing K-bid auctions the April before last. Now, I had been talking about doing them. Yeah, it's been over here. And so I had been talking about, by this time I knew I was going to open a shop.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to do K-bid. I definitely want to do K-bid auctions because it's a hyper-local bidder base. And they pick up a lot of stuff. They can sell bulk
stuff.
Heavy
Stuff that you wouldn't ship on eBay.
Stuff you wouldn't ship. Yeah. And so I've been talking about it for a year or 6 months, whatever it was. And one day I'm at your store, and I don't know where we were.
Yeah.
And you go, so when are you going to do the K-bid auctions? I'm like, I don't have a store, you weirdo. How am I going to do it? He's like, well, just do it at my store. And I go, it's kind of a good idea.
I have no more excuses.
It's kind of a good idea. I'm like, all right. Well, getting started, the way K-bid works is a platform, but then there's affiliates. Yep. And so then the affiliates run their own auctions. K-bid just provides the platform.
It's basically, in a lot of ways, just for those of you listening, it's like eBay or Amazon in the sense that, like, a lot of people don't realize Amazon's usually not selling their own stuff. It's usually affiliate. I mean, some of it's their own, but Amazon's gotten more new now. But back in the day, everyone was selling their own books.
Oh, yeah,
like,
that's right.
You know what I'm saying?
No, yeah, that's good.
It was like, I have all my own books. I'm just using Amazon.
Right.
It's K-bid is that for a local base.
Right.
You know?
And so, so what I didn't know was I was going to have 3 interviews with them in order to just be able to give them $1,000 to sign up.
Yeah.
And take an all-day class and do it. It's a big drawn thing. They don't like just anybody be an affiliate, right?
Yeah, because
I mean, they do, but I mean, it's not that big of a bar. But
I mean, their reputation is
yeah, reputation, very, very high. I want to say 2003 or whatever. Yeah. And they were doing live auctions. Yeah. So maybe like
it started out of Annandale or Maple Plain, Minnesota.
And so we've been I'm getting a little background in there because not everybody knows the K-bid.
For sure, yeah.
And so I started running those auctions out of your store, and I'm over 30 minutes away from you. So it's like we set up a day, and then there would be one day for pickup. So anyway, fast forward, I got the keys to this place in January. I've been running them out of the store since then. I actually ran 2 auctions before I opened. Yeah. Yeah, it's just had stuff. So story time.
Oh my.
All right. Now, I want to preface the story with I do not know how to tell a linear story. Or rather, I am incapable of telling a linear story.
Especially when I'm here with you.
I'll do the best I can, but you will hear me go, oh yeah, and another thing that happened like previous and stuff.
And you'll have me chime in
and then
when
you
I
get
can't
to chime in.
follow.
So, the last auction we had was wild, right? There were...
now, are you talking about the one previous where people canceled?
To this one.
Yep.
Previous to one that just finished yesterday.
Yep.
Last night. So it's been 3 weeks ago it closed. At the end of the auction, so there was 3 ridiculously active bidders, and they all had like new accounts, right? Yeah. They're all relatively new accounts. Yeah. Like last 3 months or so. Yeah. I think I'd have to double check on that, but they were all on the end of the number scale. All right. I'm doing the best I can.
I don't even know where this is
going. Wild. So one of the things that I told Clint the story, and I told him that I wasn't going to tell him until we were on the podcast.
I tried to pick it out of him, but like he's been holding.
I'm like, there's no way. I got to tell you the story. I want to see your reaction to this whole thing, and I'm curious what you think. So, this guy. So there's 3 lots. There's mainly 3 lots. There's a 90 Fleer Update baseball set. That's worth like $10. Went for, and these are estimates, but like $280.
Crazy.
There was an 87 Fleer Update set, which is an okay set.
There's a couple other sets.
No, by itself.
Oh, by itself.
$320, like 35, 40, whatever dollar set. And then an 81 I don't know if that's one, but there was another one that went for like 220, whatever.
But that one I think had a couple others.
Three lots worth approximately $80 or $90, $825. I'm at the store screaming at the computer, stop bidding. Just stop bidding. Now, we've talked about this where I'm like, I don't like this.
Because they're not going to pay at that point.
Well, it's not even not paying, but I've told you this before. When and this is not this egregious either. This is like when something's worth $50 and they bid it up to 90. I'm like, ugh. Because what happens is, this is what I feel what happens is if you're a brand new bidder and you do that, and your first time on my auction, you bring it home, you realize you massively overpaid, and then the thought process is, that guy ripped me off.
Right.
I have zero control over your bid. I have zero control over every bid.
Side point. Overpaying and losing money, I saw that happen a lot in the storage unit days, where guys would like get into a war of I need to win this, and then they would do all this work and lose money, and they wouldn't come back anymore. Like it actually weeds out. It actually like teaches people how to do business, right? Because
I understand that, but I want buyers, not entrepreneurs. I want collectors buying from me.
Yeah, but
I'm not trying to drive. I don't.
You got to realize though that sometimes the market is like teaching someone a lesson.
Maybe. But so what happens is, so maybe that's unjustified.
Yeah.
It is unjustified. I didn't do anything, right? But next time they see my auction come up on K-Bid,
they might not.
In the back of their mind, they're just like, nah, I'm not gonna look at that guy's auction.
Yeah.
And then there's a side point where that happens. People go,
who else is bidding?
Oh, I don't want to look at his auction. That stuff goes way too high.
But here's the thing: is like it takes two people. As
I understand
the famous saying, it takes two. So the question is, who's that other person, and what's their motive?
Absolutely. Right? Like there was an auction I ran on a auction house similar. It's called TC Bid.
Yep.
I've told you this before.
Yeah.
It was a single row box, 800 count row box of used soft sleeves, and it went for $130. Used soft sleeves.
Brand new, those
or $90. It was a ridiculous.
I mean, brand new, it costs like 10.
Yeah, something like that. Brand.
Yeah. So we're talking like 10 times.
And you got to remember, they get bigger when they're out of the package. They've been used before. So I mean, it happens, right? It's okay.
The fact you didn't throw away used soft sleeves, that's classic.
Yeah. Well, they haven't taken that. I'm like, whatever. I grew up poor. I mentioned that. So what happened was 3 active bidders.
Yeah.
One bidder had the bill of like $250. He didn't buy a lot of lots, but $250, and he kind of overpaid on stuff. There was another one that went up to about $1,000.
Yep.
And another one up $2,000.
Yep.
Right, and the one to $2,000
didn't pay.
Didn't pay.
But
he
the
didn't
1,000
show up.
did, right?
The 1,000 did, and the 250 did.
And those were the two guys bidding against that guy.
Right. So the $1,000, $2,000 guy, they were at it. I don't think all the actions. This will come up later, but I think definitely those 3 actions, right?
Yep.
So
those 3 lots, you mean?
Those 3 lots, yeah.
All in the same auction.
Right. And so, he doesn't. He doesn't pick it up. I get in contact with the secretary because I would call. I'm like, I want the money, And I did the work. And I did the work. I got to redo the work, right? So I get a hold of the secretary, and I even do this, which is not a good customer service, but I was pissed.
Yeah. And
I was like, I tell the secretary because I've been trying to contact him multiple times, made multiple calls, multiple emails, does not respond to me, and I go, it seems like he's ducking my calls. That's what I said at the very end of that call to the secretary. My hope was that she was going to say to him, he said that you're ducking him. And I go, he ran up a bill of $2,000 to his secretary.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, at least I'll get an angry phone call and I'll talk to him like, hey, man, what's the deal?
Right.
You got to pick up your stuff.
So you can resolve it.
So I didn't want him as a customer at that point, but so doesn't call me, right? So that means, like, he doesn't want to talk to me. He doesn't want to pick up his stuff. Because I'm sure he figured out, like, that $825, that $2,000 was like,
way over top,
what up? So, all right, that's cool. Whatever. It sucks. I got to redo all the work again. I don't know how much.
So, you never heard from him?
I never heard from him.
Got the anger.
Never heard from him. So, I do another auction that ended yesterday.
Which, by the way, side point, they shut off his number.
Yeah. So when I mark it as no-show, the account's disabled. And then the only way to get it back is you got to, like, pay a fine, and then you got to pay off his stuff.
So, you're not going to deal with him bidding again?
No. He can't bid again. So, let's see if I get this right. 2 days ago, I get a phone call from the $1,000 buyer.
Okay.
And he goes, and bear in mind, I'm hard of hearing too on this phone call, so I'm like, doing the best I can, trying to understand it. I'm in a conversation that's about something that I'm not aware what the conversation's about until I'm already into it.
Yeah.
And he goes, I noticed there's a lot of stuff that you had in the last auction and this auction. I said, yeah, some dude ran up $2,000 bill and didn't pay.
Yeah.
And I said it like that, like real derisively. I was like, I'm
pissed.
And he goes, said some stuff, and he goes, yeah, kind of shady. And I go, but who's shady? Are you saying I'm shady? And he goes, no.
That guy.
He goes, no, he didn't say that guy. He just says no. I go, oh, okay. And I'm like, because all of a sudden I know what he's thinking. He's thinking we show bid the auction. You think it's showing, right? And maybe not, but that's why and then
because he wanted the stuff. Is that?
Well, he's mad that guy bid him up.
Sure.
And
But he didn't get stuck. But he didn't get stuck with it.
He got stuck with some stuff that he paid over market for. Now, I look back at his stuff. He didn't way overpay on anything.
Right.
There's a couple things that he had maybe.
But the fact that he even bid up that high tells you he didn't know what he was doing.
Well, no. So I talked to him when he paid. So now I'm jumping back, right?
Yeah.
So when he came to pick up, so I don't know how to broach the subject because when you come in, I'm like, man, you overpaid for that, you sucker. I can't do that, right? And I want to call somebody a sucker for paying it. But so he brought it up, and I go, okay, I gotta ask, what were you doing? Why were you doing that? He goes, I looked up. We were talking about the 90 flare. I looked up the 90 flare. I saw that it was worth $10, but I thought the other guy knew something I didn't know.
He said that.
And I'm like, so you had the information, but you just thought that it's FOMO, fear of missing out? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And then he told me something about how he's in another auction and he wasn't going to let anybody have any of it, and then he wouldn't stop bidding until I got all of it.
So it's almost like a pride
thing. So he's just, yeah.
It's competition,
like that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling, I talked to him for like 45 minutes in the shop. I'm like, you got to let that go.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got to let that go because he wants to resell this stuff and make the money. He's like, can I make the money? And I said, well, the only way, can I just sell the set? Because it was the 90 score. Yeah. Like that was the main thing. And I said, the only way you're going to do it is by pulling the cards and grading them.
But are we going to use the name of that guy?
We're not going to use the name of anybody.
Do I know him?
No, you don't know him.
Okay. Because I
don't know why you would know him.
Okay.
I'll show you the name. I don't think so.
Here's my thought is, maybe we don't have this conversation at this time on the podcast, but there's someone who was possibly going to consign with you that I know. Anyway, all right. We'll talk about it later.
We'll do some sleuthing.
Yeah, that thought just came. Okay.
By the way, we're in part 1, act 1 right now.
Well, and partly because the reason I bring this up is the fear of missing out thing is with how hot sports cards are.
Yeah.
Everyone's hearing stories of people making so much money that I think there is a great potential for people to overpay on the wrong things. Mm-hmm. Like there's certain things that you can overpay on, and the market's moving so fast that like you buy a PSA 9 Jordan rookie and you overpay now, but in 6 months you haven't overpaid.
Well,
like
I'll tell you this: on the 90 score, after the buyer's premium, he then at like 56, and you can get him like 3 for 45 or 3 for 50 on eBay. So he's not way over, but he's over. He's at full retail, and he's not going to be able to take those sets and make money selling the sets.
But he can also pick them up for free, all of it at once, whereas on eBay he's going to have to pay shipping.
Right? No, that's what shipping.
Oh, that's
like
$45,
$50 shipping.
All right, that's shipped.
So I told him, I said, well, here's the deal. He's like, well, you think I'm going to go Facebook Marketplace? I'm like, I don't think you can.
No.
Because you buy them like right at what they go for.
Yeah.
So the only way you're going to make money, you got to pull the Bo Jackson black and white out. Yep. Got to pull the Frank Thomas rookie, a couple others, do your research, and then it's a long time. He's like, I don't care about the money. I just, I said, that's cool. I'm like, that's how you're going to make money on that. You got to grade, right? Because they were factory sets.
Yep. The problem is that card's near the end of that set in the box.
Oh, yes.
And so it tends to be, anyway, we open the set. Yeah.
So I talked to him for a long time, and that went fine. Yeah. So, okay, now go back to the phone call. He's all of a sudden going.
So he's calling you back after he picked everything up.
He picked everything up. He sees a bunch of stuff get relisted, and then he's like, "Well, that's not fair." And I go, "Yeah, I agree, it's not fair." Like I had to do a bunch of work. Yeah. And then he goes like, "Well, there's a digital footprint on bidder." That's where I was like, "Oh, he's accusing me of show bidding."
Okay.
And like he's saying like, "I'm gonna find out who it was. I'm gonna connect him to you, and then now I'm gonna go after you." And then Federal Trade Commission comes up, and then the State Attorney General comes up.
No.
And I brought many people with small claims that have never lost. I know I'm sounding like I'm being whatever, but I've never lost. And so now I'm like, oh, okay, this guy will sue people and like all this stuff. And so he's getting really hot. I hang up on him.
Wow.
I just hang up on him, right? I wait 10 minutes. I call him back.
Yeah.
And I start out with, "Are we calm now?"
Nice.
Because I'm interested in helping the guy out.
Diffuse the situation.
I'm still in customer service mode, right?
Yeah.
Because I haven't done anything wrong.
Right.
And so I'm still trying to.
And K-Bid should be the one stepping in at some
Well,
point.
even then, well, no, hold on, you're getting ahead of me. So I'm still. I used to run a call center, so I'm like, I got a little bravado myself. I think I can actually, bring people down.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Well, I was calm." I'm like, "Well, I don't know about that." And so we end up talking to him for an hour.
Who's we?
Me and this guy. Me and $1,000 guy. I ended up talking to him for an hour, just kind of talking about how it works, how the option is.
And you could even tell him.
I know. Tell him,
no, you can't tell him the name, but you know the name of the person.
I do, but that came up, and I said, "I'm pretty sure it'd be illegal for me to give you his name."
But
I said, "I don't know that." Yeah. I said, "But K-Bid might, so you need to contact K-Bid and figure out like what they can do, what they can't do." And I'm like, and I'm gonna tell you, and this is why I told him that we were back to like more friendly terms. Yeah. And I said, "You can't approach them the way you approach me.
Right.
You're gonna get nowhere with that." He's like, "Yeah. People tell me I'm a hothead and all this stuff."
And they get lawyers, and they got plenty of money.
And that was one of the things he said. He goes, "My lawyer is $500 an hour. Her lawyer is $500 an hour. So may as well just settle." So he's just, you know what I'm saying? He's committing, like, this is basically racketeering at this point. Like, I'm gonna threaten you with a lawsuit so you pay me out. And so it's a protection racket, like what the mafia does. Yeah. It's just much smaller scale. And without whacking anybody.
And there's no real injustice that actually happened.
No, because the wrong party is just
stupid.
Yeah, either I got to give him money, K-Bid got to give him money.
But he
make him go away.
But he didn't even win. Oh, so is he? Hold on.
He wants to get part of his $1,000 back.
Okay, so he's not talking about the stuff he lost to that guy. He's talking about the stuff he actually won. The stuff he actually won, he's realizing he overpaid. So he's having buyer's remorse.
Right.
Okay, good.
And so he wants the difference. So it's the way. So on eBay when people go, "Oh, this has got a scratch on it. Can I get $10 off?" You go return for refund. You're like, "Oh, I just want to keep it." Like, yeah, no, I bet you do.
Yeah.
I bet there's a scratch, right? And so I know what he's doing, right? And so, but I'm like, at the same time, like, there is somebody who did something wrong. That's just $2,000 better, right? Yeah. I'm like, hey man, if you want to sue that guy,
go for it.
Go for it, man. I
don't think you can sue. I don't know what the law.
I don't know, but like if he wants to do the work, I got no problem cheering him on. Like, go right ahead. I don't care. But I don't know what K-Bid can do. I don't know what they can share, what they can't share. So they copy me. They send me an email, and they're like, "Did you have any indication that this bidder wouldn't pay?" And I said, "Well, no, because he had $10,000 worth of purchases in the past, because I can see how much you purchased in the past."
Anything from you?
No, nothing from me. None of these three people have ever bought from me before. And so I'm like, no. I mean, at $10,000, I was like, I thought I was gonna have an uncomfortable conversation with him about him paying
way over market
10 times what something was worth, possibly. But other than that, And so, and then I kind of give an overview.
Yep.
To K-Bid. K-Bid goes, "Well, this person account's been disabled.
Yep.
He had $10,000 worth of purchase. No reason why I wouldn't think we would anything but a paying bidder.
Yep.
And there's not a lot we can do." The response to K-Bid is like, threats, lawsuits.
To K-Bid.
Yeah, to K-Bid. Yeah. So I had copied K-Bid. I sent one without copying K-Bid because this was now between me and him. I said, I'm really disappointed that you resorted to threats. Yeah. Again, because this is what happened with me. And I said, you got to do. Yep. I'm going to do a horrible job synopsizing my own email. Right. But I go, I'm like, I don't want you bidding on my stuff anymore until you follow through with whatever it is you got to do. Yep. And then after that, maybe we can talk about maybe doing business together. But until that happens, I don't want to do any business. Right. 6 or so exchanges later, he calls me a deplorable. Wow. Deplorable, like literally. That's a quote. I'm a deplorable. And that I'm stealing from him. And
because
he thinks I'm show bidding. He thinks that I knew the $2,000 guy and that guy ran him up.
Or does he actually think you're running the account of the $2,000?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. He didn't make it specific because he doesn't really know what he's
add that to the list of things you've been called. At least you didn't have someone threaten to bitch slap you. I did in the shop.
Oh, that's right.
That's another story.
Yeah, that's another podcast. Right?
Direct quote.
So I might be halfway through the story now.
Nice.
Maybe.
It's getting good now.
No, it gets better. And so like he's like, oh, cease and desist. He's like using these words. He doesn't really know how to use them right. And I go, okay, now you're banned from my physical retail location. Yep. If you show up at my store, I'll call the police to have you in the room. Yep. Now I'm foreshadowing a little bit because I had to do that again today with somebody else.
Wow.
So that happened. So now I'm pissed. I'm just irritated.
This
I had
is
a
too much
couple.
work, yeah.
I had a couple cool customers come in and trying to cheer me up, and I was like, they're just kind of cool guys and regulars. And I tell my wife this story, and I'm like.
So when did this conversation go down? This last couple emails.
So this was 2 days ago,
Okay.
and then yesterday was.
You can't come to the shop.
Yeah, yesterday was you can't come to the shop.
And was he currently bidding on this auction and stuff?
No, he's not.
Okay.
He's
okay,
not.
okay,
He's not.
good, yeah.
He said that. He said, "Oh, I think you're a good guy." The day before,
Yep.
I'll look at some. I'm willing to bid on your auction,
Now
or whatever.
you're-
I haven't banned him from bidding.
Now you're deplorable.
I thought he was gonna send a message to K-Bid, and he's gonna try to get the information of $2,000 guy,
Yep.
and then like bring him small clients, which would be hilarious. Like, we all dream of doing that stuff, but then we realize it's not worth the work.
Judge Judy, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
That'd be
Judge Judy,
entertaining.
like,
Let's go.
how dare you raise up a bill, 2,000? But
How dare you be so ignorant to overpay?
and I told my wife, I'm like, if he brings me into court, I'm not even gonna get a lawyer. I'll be like, I don't know this dude. Case closed.
Yeah.
And then I know counter to him for $1.
Exactly.
Just that, like.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
okay,
anyway,
so 2 days ago, yep. Now,
So now this guy's done. I don't know what's gonna happen with that.
okay.
So now, are you ready?
I don't know.
Okay, so in my shop, I have display cases.
Okay.
And these display cases, they're consignment cases, so dealers can set up. And I just sell on consignment. I take 13%, 10% plus credit card fee. And I just have the one dealer so far.
Yep.
And so he's more of a collector than a dealer,
Yep.
right? And so he's been selling for 2 months. Haven't really made any money off of him, really. But I've been helping him out because what it works out for me is like the stuff in the case, because all my stuff's on eBay.
Yep.
I can't bring my cards out on the floor.
Right.
So I'll never find anything that I ever sell on eBay. So my solution to that is rent out the cases. I don't charge a case fee yet.
Yep.
So it's no case fee, and I just take the percentage. And so he's sold like 800 in the last couple months. So in
Not
2
bad.
months. In
Yeah.
2 months. So that's cool, you know.
And he's probably opening packs, so it helps him sell some stuff.
And so, but that means I've made like $80.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly looking up cards for him, and it's fun, you know. And I don't
it's
begrudge
a
him
service that you're offering for.
No, I just
Yeah,
like talking about cards.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we do the podcast, right? So
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll look up stuff for him, and we'll talk, and I'm trying to help him out, right?
Yep.
Because he's more of a collector, not a dealer. So this is where it goes back.
This is where it connects.
He had a basketball in the previous auction
Okay.
that went for like $42.
Who was it? Signed by.
It was a Minnesota Lynx ball,
Okay.
and then he swears Kevin Garnett signed it.
Okay.
It's a horrible Kevin Garnett. I can't even find it on the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah.
I still got it back there. Maybe we can spot it. They haven't picked it up yet. So the $2,000 bidder guy
Yep.
bid it up, and so in this next auction, I put in the new auction.
Yep.
Like I do.
Yep.
Right.
Resell it.
And he was here a couple days ago, and he goes, "What's that ball at?" And I go, "Oh, we're at $9." He goes, "Oh man, I paid more than that. I hope we can get more." I go, "Me too." That was the extent of the conversation. But I'm like, last day, the bidding goes up. Well, no more bids come in last night when it closes, and it sells for $9. I'm like, oh, that sucks. 12 hours ago, I don't know, 12 hours ago, whatever. He comes in with another, not a dealer, but another collector that's well known in the community.
Okay.
And so the dealer has, I don't want to share, I mean, I'm not saying names, I don't want to share personally. He has some struggles communicating.
Okay.
And so he's like, they both come in. Now, he's come in before with this dealer before, and I'm friendly with him. I don't know him super well, but I've known him for a couple
They're
years.
friends or whatever.
Maybe 5 conversations with him.
Okay.
He's a fine guy. We had good conversation. Came to one of my trade nights, like the first trade night or second trade night. And he's standing right at the table here, and I'm sitting in my chair like I do because with COVID, if I sit in my chair, I stay away from people.
Yeah.
And we're talking, and I'm thinking we're chatting.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden he goes, this dealer said that I can speak for him. And I'm like, okay.
What does that mean?
And then all of a sudden he talked about...
You mean the dealer that's consigning...
This other guy is speaking for the dealer who had the case in mind.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I get that we're not using names.
No, I get it. Now I'm picking up.
All right, and I'm like, okay, and now my antenna's going up a little bit. He's like, yeah, he's not really happy about it, and he says that he's got to give you 30 days notice. I go, no, he doesn't have to give me 30 days notice. There's nothing to notify me about. Just go, and that's okay.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, well, he said that the contract said that. And I go, I mean, I don't think it does, but even if it did,
If you want to,
I don't want to have a 30 days of uncomfortableness.
Yeah. If you want to ask me to break,
I still don't really understand what's happening.
Yeah, you don't know why.
He's done pretty well out of the
So
case.
you don't think it's because of the $9 basketball, or is it?
I have no idea it has anything to do with basketball.
Yeah.
And so then he started talking about the basketball. He's like, "You relisted that without his permission," and I'm like, "Huh?" And he's like, "I'm like, well, one, I mean that is in the contract,
Yeah.
but." Like, he was here a couple days ago. He didn't say anything about, like, how come you relisted it? He's just like, I hope it gets more bids.
Right.
And so I'm, like, doing this stuff. Now, I did something bad. You know me well enough to know that I have a bit of a tongue from time to time. Well, I'll say things.
I've heard you say a word or two that.
Yeah. And
a choice word.
so he has, and again, I can't remember specifics, but it's like, he's accusing me of theft. He's accusing me of theft now.
Now, of what?
Because I relisted the ball without his permission, and it got less money the second time around.
Now, can I ask you a question to clarify? Is the person who's being spoken for saying anything during this?
No, he is at this point.
You're only talking.
Okay, I got to back up.
Yeah.
So, because I don't even know where I am, but at one point the basketball comes up, and I'm like, and then it's clear he wants to go, but he's very upset about the basketball. The basketball went for 42, which means he would net. I take 30%, $740. He'd net like $29. I said, I'll tell you what. I went up. I took $40 out of my wallet, and I said, here, take $40, and then get the hell out.
Yeah.
You know,
and take all your stuff too, or what?
Yeah. Just leave. You want to go?
So
Here's the $40.
And you packed everything.
I don't give a flying crap about the 28. I mean, I gave him $12 more than he's even owed, right?
Right.
And so he's not even owed that. He's owed
right.
$680.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. And so again, this is back to the $2,000 bidder guy. He doesn't pick up anything, right?
Yeah.
I
want to see
so this is why I did the bad thing. I'm pissed because friend of dealer is now accusing me straightforward of theft.
Right.
I don't know how he's getting theft, but he's said it multiple times. Like, oh, he didn't say shady, but it's like, oh, you're doing stuff that wasn't right, and he lost money because of you and all this stuff. And I go, I don't know exactly what I said, but I said something to the effect of blah, 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 and then referred to the dealer as his lover. Probably shouldn't have done that, because he immediately starts challenging me to a physical fight in the shop.
The guy speaking or
the guy speaking for the dealer?
Interesting.
Now,
do I know that guy?
I'm going to tell you. You do know that guy.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you something. It's not okay for me to say that.
Right.
That's not lowering the tension in the room.
Right.
I should have said, I'm done talking. You take your stuff. You got your $40 later.
Yep.
But my kryptonite is people accusing me of stealing. It's like I try to be straightforward.
He's challenging your morals and your.
Yeah, it's just like that. That's like
with no ground. But part of it is let me ask you this: how much does the fact that you've had to deal with the $2,000 bidder?
Oh no, it's everything. The $2,000 bidder, a $1,000 bidder, and now I'm being accused about a $28 difference.
And literally, you're the one who's done all the work and made no money.
I'm sorry, a $21 because it would have been $28 payout and a $7 payout. We're talking about $21. And it's just like, I'm really upset about it.
And he wants to physically fight over it. Okay.
Well, he wants to physically fight because I referred to him as his lover.
Well,
I shouldn't have done. That is wrong. Don't do that.
Way to poke the bear, John.
Yeah, but I do like to tap the cage and watch the monkeys throw crap at each other.
Right.
And I can't help it sometimes. And I'm pissed. I'm like, I've had to deal with 3 individual things.
And you did all the work.
I did all the work.
And you're not going to make any money.
Oh, I'll tell you something else. He's like, I'm like, Dad, did we do all that work again? What are you going to ask me for? He goes, oh, it's no big deal for you to do that work again. I go, yeah, because my time's worthless, and then his $20 is a big deal. So he challenged me to a fight. I'm still sitting in the chair. I stand up and I grab my bat. I put it on the back, and I said, you got to go. Because I got robbed a couple weeks ago. I keep a bat behind the table now. I'm dead serious. I'm like, you got to go. Oh, that's assault. He's freaking out. And he's like, how about you and me go outside? You fatty. Now, if you're just listening to this, he was not wrong to call me that. That's exactly what I am. Like, I'm a big fatty. And so he thinks that makes me mad. I'm well aware that I am indeed a big fatty.
But he's trying to
get me to go after him. I stay behind the counter, and he starts kind of creeping and going back. I call cops. I'll call the cops. Like, you can leave, or I'll call the cops and have them remove you. Yeah. And he's just going off. So I call a cop, and at one point, the operator goes, what's happening?
Something dropped in the hallway?
Something dropped in the hallway?
Mm-hmm. Or in the back room?
Might be a friend of dealer.
Anyway.
It might be the Taekwondo guy.
Yeah, no,
He's probably still cleaning up.
It's late.
So
that's
I'm
12:16.
we're almost there, right?
No, you're good.
So so I call the cops at one point. They go, "What does he look like?" I go, "Oh, he's an old man." And I didn't say that to be mean. It's just like they asked me if he was young or old. I said he's an old man. Yeah. And then now he's taking offense at me calling him an old man, but he's an old man. I don't know. Yeah. Like call me a fatty, fat, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I agree with that. Yeah. And so, and at one point he was like, "You fat, you're 450 pounds," and I go, "That's a damn lie. I'm 360 pounds." And then I smiled.
Yeah.
Now, still mad.
And this is
like,
in front of the
cops.
Little
self-deprecation.
And this is cops are here?
No. He's still waiting. We're still waiting on it. And the dealer is packing up his stuff. And he's just barking at me. I'm like, you need to leave.
And the other guy's not saying anything.
Not saying anything. Okay. Every once in a while I might say something, but no. And then, so finally he goes, "Okay, we're going to leave." I go, "Oh, you don't want to wait for the cops now?" I go, "Okay, that's cool." And then he leaves, and the cops come, and then, I know his name. I know what city he lives in. And so the cops watch the video because they got video cameras. Mm-hmm. And they went to his house to trespass him. $2,000 bidder, man, if you're listening. I don't like you very much.
Wow. So do
I have any culpability in any of this?
Let me ask something. my mind is blown on so many levels, like the connections between each of these guys.
And by the way, it's all my fault.
By the way, have you found out anything about this $2,000 bidder? Like,
I know where he lives. I know what company he has.
And there's no reason for you to think that this guy was like shilling for this dealer who is now frustrated about the ball, right?
No,
there's no relationship between them.
I can't imagine.
That'd be a pretty complex.
That would be a really elaborate.
It's way elaborate for a $40.
Well, here's the thing though.
Even
show bidding anyway is where something's worth like $100 and you push somebody to $100 and you get out.
Yeah.
It's not where it's worth $100 and you push it to $1,000.
Right.
And drop. I mean, that's not that's not what show bidding is, anyways.
Yeah.
I mean that's crazy.
Now,
crazy
what's interesting is like this is a topic that comes up all the time in the sports card world. Is there's always concern about show bidding because
sure.
And it's interesting because there's a lot of big auction houses, whether it's Probstein or PWCC, or a lot of these guys that sell a lot of cards on consignment on eBay. That people are always looking at recent comps to set the market on a card. And I think one of the keys, and this is for everyone listening, as you're an investor, if you're a collector, to protect yourself against shill bidding, one of the things you need to do is you need to be aware of the market value. Mm-hmm. And in order to establish the market value, it takes more than one-off sale, right? Yeah. It takes the more an item is sold or traded, the more clear the bid ask, the tighter the bid ask for those of you guys who do stocks, like that gives you an idea of like what something's actually worth. Because now the hard part is, I heard this saying from a dealer one time, and I want to come back, I want to tie it all around to this story because this is still something I'm trying to like process all this, is like sometimes an item is so rare that the only the only thing rare is a buyer.
Right.
Because it's traded so rarely that you don't actually have a clear understanding of the market. And actually PWCC, when they do this, they do a market research on different cards. Those cards have to be traded at a minimum of a certain quantity per year for them to include them, because they're like, the T206 Wagner only trades every like 5 years. So like it's not traded enough to know what the true market is. And so like the funny thing about
that doesn't mean they don't sell it. That means
they don't
put an estimate. They don't put an estimate.
No, because in other words, like as those of you guys who do stocks, when you pull up a stock, you can look at the volume of a stock traded, and the higher volume of an item traded, the more clearly the price is reflected.
But I think effectively what you're trying to say is, not on the more liquid cards. If you see 150, 160, 140, 310.
Yes.
150, 175.
Yep.
Don't look at that. 210's an outlier. It's meaningless.
Throw out
or
the
if you see 95. It's an outlier. It's meaningless.
We buy cards every day. John, you buy cards. You buy collections. One of the things people always do is like, as a dealer, when I look up comps, one of the things I'm constantly doing is throwing out high and low outliers.
Yes.
And I'm trying to do like an average because like there's so much risk that like if I pay you for that high outlier price, which to be honest,
not even average, because if something's like 100, 120, 150, you can throw out 2, it's 100.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 100.
It's 100. It's 100. And I have to build my margin at 100. Yeah.
Right.
And if I happen to get the 120 or the 150, like that's I'm not banking on it. And so like for those of you listening, like if you guys are buying stuff, if you're buying cards in the market on eBay, on auctions, be aware that they're like PWCC can't stop show bidding.
Right.
Like they can't do a perfect job.
A friend of a friend.
You have to do the job. Unlike the $1,000 bidder of knowing, you know what, I don't have to win this.
Right.
I understand the market. Like there's, and here's the other thing is the crazy thing is some of the stuff he bid on, because I know because it was a lot of my stuff. There's 1,000 of them for sale right now on eBay.
Yeah.
At a certain price. So literally, like that's what it's worth. Yeah. Like.
So I got a question. Yeah. Hey Evan, how long have we been going? Hour and a half. So I think it's actually shorter than I thought. I thought you'd been here for like 4 hours. What's your final thoughts on what went down? Because I've been holding you off on this story. I want to hear it. Okay. No, that's good.
My thoughts are. Here's one thought. And I have a couple different segments of thoughts. One of them is the crazy ripple effect of one person's decisions. Yes. That's the first thought of like the guy who overbid and didn't pay. I bet the last thing that went through his mind, and this is where, like, as a human, I'm selfish, right? Yeah. And I have to resist my selfishness of, like, I make decisions that, like, he had no idea. He's caused you 40 hours of work.
No, I don't know about that, but he caused me 10 hours of
10 hours of work.
And grief.
And grief. Yeah. And all of that stress inhibits your ability to handle perfectly the next conflict that keeps getting compounded.
Immature behavior.
Hence you tapping the cage, which, you know.
Which I shouldn't have done.
Which I will say I will say this much. There is a place to fire a customer.
All right.
And I think doing that in a professional way is fine.
I should have. Well, he quit. Yeah. The customer quit, and I should just let him quit and just not say anything, even though I'm being accused of all these things. Yeah.
My other thought is here's another thought. This is incredibly illogical, everything that they're saying. Like there's just no logic. There's no substance. It doesn't make any sense. I'm confused as to how you're being culpable when all you are is facilitating a fair market sale on the internet.
You know why I am? I can tell you why I am. They don't know who $2,000 bidder is.
Right.
Me and K-Bid, they know who we are. Therefore, they're not at fault.
For sure.
For anything.
Yeah.
So it has to be somebody they can identify.
There has to be a scapegoat, right? There has to be somebody. It's the Wrigley Field Moises Alou.
Yeah.
I
know what you're referring to. I can't remember.
The ESPN documentary "Catching Hell" was all about what was his name, Evan? Do you remember the guy? The guy who interfered with the catch for the Cubs.
Super fan. I can't remember his name. Steve Bartman.
Steve Bartman. It's the Steve Bartman situation where like we couldn't possibly blame our outfielder. We couldn't possibly blame the fact that the Cubs organization is dysfunctional. You
can't even blame Steve for wanting to catch a home run ball.
Well, not only that, like every one of us, if we were Steve, how many of us have the like realization to realize like I could actually be going like you just react, like it's just what happens, you know. And so like you have all these people reacting out of their emotion, out of their whatever. Partly, I think to myself too, like you handled the situation well by like as a business owner.
I handled it well 90% of the way.
Well. You handing the guy the money should have been enough to just.
Well, what happened was we gave him the money. I thought two things was going to happen. I thought he was going to go, well, you don't have to do that.
Right.
I thought there was going to be the
There's
thing.
some of those, yep.
Or he would be like, you know,
I'm maybe in the wrong.
I really appreciate you doing
gesture.
this, and maybe giving it back to me was like, I know it wasn't totally your fault, but I appreciate you doing it. And even if you would have said like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yep.
I'd been like, all right, that's cool. Because I think when I gave him the money, he looks down, and he puts it in his pocket, and I go, really? You're just gonna? I think I said rob.
Now, did you give it to the guy speaking or the actual dealer? The actual dealer.
I gave it to the dealer, and he just doesn't say anything. Now, granted, again, communication difficulties. That's fine, but like, really, got nothing for me, like. I made you more than whole.
I reconciled the situation on my end.
It's not my fault.
Yeah.
And I did, and there's no recognition of like.
Yeah.
Well, that was cool.
You didn't even need to do that, and the fact you did showed above and beyond that. Not only are you not like actually were you not guilty of any sort of theft? You literally are making up for someone else's issue that wasn't yours.
Because here's the thing. Here's the reason why I did that. It was like, look, man, I know you're upset. I'm not interested in upset stuff happening. People being angry and bitter over $21.
Yeah.
I'm going to overpay you. And then you're not out anything. There's no reason for you to be upset long term. But then the other problem I had was I was like, really? Like you're just not going to say anything?
Well, and the fact that you've done as much.
More irritated.
Well, and the fact that you've done as much as you have done for him and made as little as you
I've
have.
Probably given him hundreds of dollars worth of
value
and looking up cars for him and helping him out. Because again, it's like if he wants to be here 5 years, that's cool.
But then again, you know what it reminds me? This is my other thought about the situation is both the $1,000 bidder and the dealer are like, I feel like experiencing the same emotion, which is like
you got somehow.
You got. No. But the reality is like, and they're the one to blame themselves. Like in the sense of the guy who bid for $1,000 should have been educated.
The dealer wasn't to blame at all. I mean, it's just because what happened is the $1,000 guy should have just been like, yeah, I was too aggressive.
Yep.
Dealer should have said that's just the way the chips fall.
Well, and let me say this here's where it's affecting you is the $1,000 bidder not wanting to lose.
Yeah.
Caused the dealer to think that item was worth more.
Them all on the $2,000 guy.
And then
the $1,000 guy's got a lot of culpability.
And then when the basketball ends up going for 9 instead of 40,
no, it should have went for like 20.
It makes it look like you're the problem when the reality is like part of it is we understand it. And when I sell stuff on K-Bait, like we were just talking about the Ron Gant, Kent Herbeck figure that we're going to be selling, and like we looked up, we realized, oh man, this thing's worth like $150, not 40 or whatever. Like I'm happy to run that. And the last thing I would ever accuse first of all, if that thing's over $10, I wouldn't even be bummed because I'm like, John, you've sold so many things for me that you've gotten more than they were ever worth. It balances out.
Well, that dealer had put just a few things in auction before, and he's always very happy when he gets good prices, but then he's very sad about the bad prices, and he can't combine the two.
Yeah, he can't recognize.
Overall was okay.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, everything's a tragedy or it's a victory.
It's
like, it's like, oh man, that's a roller coaster. You can't go down
it's skewed logic, and it hurts you in business because like we have certain items we've bought that we've lost on, i.e. I'll give you a big one. It was a fad for like a week. Fidget spinners.
Oh, yeah.
We actually carried those things. Right. Fidget spinners, right? And like the reality is like...
Let's make this the last story.
This will be So like fidget spinners are like the Pogs or whatever they are of our era where like for like 6 weeks everybody wanted them. Well, by the time we ordered a bunch of them with the Twins logos on them or whatever, like kids had come and gone.
And by the time you got them,
and it just dropped on us. But the reality is like part of doing business is you're not going to win every deal. And if
we sold those spinners in bulk on K-Bid, you probably got 10% of your cost back.
Yeah. So I lost money on those. And I've had plenty of those stories where I've lost money. But the reality is it's the overall big picture. And so here's where the problem comes, I think, in his scenario is he's just not doing enough quantity to have the balance. He's putting there's too much resting on like one item. Yeah. Like it's just like,
All right. I think we're done because the camera's about to die. Thanks for listening. Thank you very much, Evan. I know you put in a ton of work
Evan.
For like 3 hours reloading everything. That's so awesome.
Hopefully Sports we'll do this Cards once a Culture
week.
Podcast.
Yeah. What's the name of it? Sports Card Culture Podcast. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. I really appreciate it.
Hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you guys next week.